Well, it's another episode of the Clay Talk Show once again, and we got another professional here who we're going to talk to about making this transition into the tech world, right? So, I like to get different perspectives from different people and different avenues that you can take instead of just my perspective on things. So, let's just go into it. Let's gonna go right into it to my friend here. I call her Z. I'll let her introduce herself. So, Z, tell us about yourself and what are you doing, your background,
Mhm.
and let's go into it.
Okay. I'd like to go by Z. And for my background, I am in IT. I am an information technology technician. That's what I do.
And
Personally,
yeah,
you do.
so that's interesting. So, information technology technician, right? So,
Mhm.
people making the transition want to know how do you get to this point, right? So, how did you choose that field, and how did you get there? What trials and tribulations that you have on along the way of attaining your title?
Right. I believe there are several types of ways in getting into the profession that I'm in. So there's just not one way. And with technology, there's a brass field where you could do anything in IT. Personally, for my journey, I started off doing this boot camp, which assisted me in getting several certifications. I was not successful in my second one. I could go back and take it again. However, I just haven't been able to put in enough time to do so. I wouldn't say put in enough time to do so. I just haven't allocated my time to focus on that cert. But after that, I initially started my first job as a contractor before actually getting on with a company full time.
Right. So there's this interesting thing going around with boot camps and colleges, and they really worth it or not. So immediately after high school, that's when you get the phase of, hey, are you going to college? What are you going to do with your life?
Mhm.
And now people are picking up earlier in their lives about wanting to get into IT. So at what age or um, range in your life did you feel as though you wanted to do IT, and then what made you pick the boot camp route rather than the traditional go to college 4 years route and then try to get a job and things like that?
Personally, I knew college was going to be an avenue for me. However, I didn't want to go to school and be or select a title of undecided. To me, I just think that's just a waste of time and a waste of money. So, personally, what I did was more so venture into what it is that I want to do. And something that I always kept in mind that my mother had always told me was STEM, and that's just science, technology, engineering, mechanics, or even military. And I knew I didn't want to really study not just mechanics or medicine, but I felt like that would have taken too long. Engineering, I've taken some engineering classes. I don't believe that's where my calling is, although it is quite fun. It can be fun. And science is something that I didn't really look into. However, I knew technology was so vast that I don't believe I would get bored. So eventually I went into technology, and I decided that at the age of, I think it was 19. I decided at the age of 19. And I went in my first certification, actually, I did go to school. I was an undergraduate. And the cert that I graduated with was the cyber forensics and terrorism cert. So that was actually a really interesting class, and it kind of allowed me to dabble into the tech field of law enforcement and investigating or like solving crimes and preventing other illegal activities. Just bringing awareness when it comes to the internet. So I thought that was nice. When it comes to the program that I eventually chose after that cert, which allowed me to get two certs, That would be the CompTIA Security Plus and the Splunk cert. Um, Originally, I was not going to go with that program. I attempted like software programming to code, and that was fun in itself. The first language I coded with was JavaScript, and I then stopped, and I was just like, okay, I got a taste for coding, and then I was like, okay, well, I want to do something else, and so I went into the DevOps program, and that's how I was able to actually get the two certs. However, before that, I would have been at like a call center with this one program where they would have guaranteed me a job because the program came from the company itself. However, I would have had to relocate after I graduated and work directly for the company, starting off with making like $45,000 a year. So I'm at that was like a good opportunity. But you know, when you Google stuff and you're just like,
Yeah.
I think I can strive. I think I can go bigger. So, and that's what I always tend to do is go big or go home. So I took a leap of faith and not like the program, but just myself to make a decision that will get me to a place where I would like to be. So,
Well, you said a mouthful there, right? So a lot of different things you touch with different programs and the certs with, Splunk and Security Plus and DevOps, all of these key terminologies that's like relevant today, right? So, and that makes you more diverse as far as your knowledge and skill set. So, because I know a lot of people start off by saying that I see advice on from LinkedIn. A lot of people start off by saying you should have a focused approach. You should know exactly what you want to do in tech, and you should just stick to that one thing until you are comfortable and able to diversify your skill set. But you're just like a prime example of being able to touch several different objects and several different skill sets make you more diverse in your knowledge. So what type of I would ask, I guess, what type of questions or when you apply for jobs, since you had so many different skill set, what type of jobs were you targeting? Was you just trying to target the highest paying salary, or were you targeting specific jobs that fit the skills that you just obtained through your program, and some common type of questions that you were getting in interviews, if you don't mind sharing?
no, I don't mind at all. When it came for me applying to jobs, it I think it would all influence or started off with the second, third program that I chose to go with. They guaranteed me a job right afterwards. That did not go as I envisioned it to go. So I went to do the whole job search myself, especially coming from an environment where the jobs that I was applying to would have been like my first job ever doing so or making the effort solo on my own. And for the jobs that I was looking for a certain price. I applied to several jobs, and in those, it was in the pursuit of being sure. I wasn't expecting to make like 60, 70,000, 80,000, 90, $95,000 starting off, you know. I didn't personally feel as confident enough to put myself in a position or in an environment where they'll be expecting this particular skill set for me because my credentials show or say that. And so me, I was looking for a job where they'll be able to educate me further just beyond what I can just learn in a class and give me the skill sets I require in order to do so. That way it's not so much for the company but for me to identify if this is actually an environment that I'm willing to invest my time and attention into, or do I need to look for something else? So yeah, it was a bumpy ride, but eventually I was able to land a job. And at the moment, I'm still in that, I guess you can say, phase to where it's like, is this really something I want to do? I think I could do more.
Yeah, so you touched on a good point of the so so expecting the 95 $100,000 range is your first job topic, right? So I've talked to a lot of people who, they pursue the technology field, cybersecurity, whatever field in tech they want to get into, and they immediately think that their first paying job would be 90, 100,000 plus because of all the advertisements of it's so many uh, job shortages for cybersecurity professionals. So that is what is attracting a lot of people, right? So I'm trying to just keep realistic expectations on people's mind for when they're trying to get into the field, especially for their first role. Because there's certain companies and certain programs that like to advertise, hey, you buy my $20,000 course, and in 90 days, you will have a six-figure paying cybersecurity job, and and I'm telling people that's just not how that works. Yeah, it may happen luckily for one or two people here and there, but the vast majority of people starting out will just not make that type of money, especially when you have people who've been doing this stuff for several years who are doing the same or applying to the same type of jobs that you're applying to. So just trying to keep the mindset and the realistic expectations type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then another thing I've seen, so I want to see what you've seen the problems is with getting into tech. A lot of times I see people who wants to go straight for the highly technical roles, but can't explain the foundational aspects of tech, such as IP addresses and what is a network, how does it work, the basic things you'll learn and whatever off of YouTube or however you choose to learn. So people say, well, I just want to go straight for penetration testing, or I want to go straight to being a cyber manager or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
without knowing just the basic overview. So in your standpoint, what do you see the common issues of people trying to get into tech? What do you see that they're constantly doing wrong, or things you constantly come across from people?
Mm, personally, I don't think I will fault the person that are expecting something that's being told to them. I would actually pinpoint or identify that with the societal norm or the societal expectation when it comes to the business aspect. So you have several programs or companies or businesses that can promise one thing, and a person hears that and they take that, they consume it. So now they're doing everything they need to do in order for them to be seen, only for them to get slapped in the face in with experience. And of course, one way for a person to get experience is to work in that field. In order to work in that field, you have to find a business that's willing to give you that opportunity or that chance to pay you for the time to better their business. And a lot of times people are just not fortunate to finding that job or to getting into that work because our industry makes it difficult, my opinion.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing with me, right? Just people. I tell people to do their research when it comes to these programs offering these promises of high paying and great jobs in 90 days or 2 weeks or however short. And I think there's a shortcut into getting to the big bag, which I don't blame people, as you said. We all want to get to that point, but there's still a road that you have to take, at least learn and be willing to learn the things that you actually need to have to perform the job, or you will be out of a job quickly if you can't perform the job. It's just,
Mhm.
like I said, basic business understanding, right? So it's just a common issue I see with people trying to get into the tech field, but at the same time, I also tell folks to do your research, look into these programs, look at how many people that actually have successful for these programs, look into their background, look into where they came from, look into other things that they're doing in the side that they're not advertising in these programs because the program is only going to advertise their courses get you the bag. And usually that's not how it works. School alone by itself is not enough, especially these days, to get the bag job, right? Because we see a lot of people with degrees and master's degrees who are not working in their field that they chose to be in, and also they're not even getting compensated return on investment from said degree. You say you go pay for these bachelor's degrees, that's $40,000, $50,000, and say you want to go get your master's, which you come out in $80,000 to $100,000 in debt, and then usually they try to get a job in their field and quickly find out that they don't have the knowledge it takes to do the job when they're getting asked certain interview questions that they don't have the answer to, and then they have to settle for a job that's paying them $30,000, and they just got a $100,000 degree in debt. So it just all goes to show that school is not the end all be all, and these programs are not the end all be all. You have to have tangible skills that you can get by just learning on your own, and then boot camps sometimes do the same thing because I've seen several where they're just focusing on the certs, but certs don't mean you can do the job neither, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people say,
I,
well, I got my security plus, I should be able to make $100,000 and I know what I'm doing, but as soon as you get a question of, okay, how would you solve this issue at our company, then they get the blank face. So what do you feel about the certs? Do you feel as though the certs are worth it, or what? What is your standpoint on the certifications?
Personally, I think life is like Monopoly. So I'm not going to say that pursuing a cert or investing time and money into a cert is going to guarantee the outcome or the yearly pay you're expecting or you look for. For instance, in the DevOps program that I ventured into, three certs I should have gotten, and well, if I passed them, right, were the CompTIA Security Plus, the Certified Ethical Hacking, and the Splunk. Out of the three certs I studied for and took the test on, two I was able to get. I wasted I wouldn't say I wasted. I lost an investment of $950 for the one cert that cost more than both of the two other certs I have
Yeah.
combined. That's $950 that I lost. But at the time, I mean, I only missed it by 1 point, and that's kind of like that'd be like a little tough. Be like, man, like I couldn't have got me that 1 point.
Yeah.
It was just 1 point, but
Yeah.
all overall, I don't regret it. I got a chance to actually get an exposure to what it was that I went to go test for, and if I go back to take it again, I know what to expect. But I don't think that certain studying for these certs and going after these degrees will be a waste of time. I believe that the pursuit of it in order to accomplish the ideal salary or a yearly sum that you are expecting to live off of or to live by, it would be solely depend on the type of company you like to work for. So you have all these different IT businesses, but none of them are going to be paying the same rate or at the same raise that one company will be paying. So you have one business that's willing to offer you, even with an IT degree, between 30 to $50,000 a year. Then you have this other program, not program, but more so business that is willing to pay you between 70 to $100,000 a year. it all depends on that company's initiative, their that mission that they're pursuing, and it also depends on how much labor and time that they're willing to pay you for. So overall, I do believe that if you are going to go after a cert or get into a degree when it comes to the field of technology, make sure you identify top companies, if not top companies, local companies that will give you a foot into the door and or that stepping stone in order to get you to where you need to be, because you're not gonna, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. So it'll take time, and there are just different opportunities, different chances that people catch in the net. A fisherman can go out into the ocean, and we know there's plenty of fish in the sea,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that the fisherman's going to catch a grand amount of fish that day. You have to go out there and keep throwing that net,
Mhm.
and that's just, just keep advertising yourself and keep putting yourself into these environments to be seen. And I think that's where the whole competition thing comes into play, because you could be shining bright, and but the person next to you shines brighter in that environment. But that shouldn't discourage anybody. That should encourage you.
Exactly right. So the thing is, if it's not a race, it's a marathon. So people get discouraged real fast when they go obtain their degree in cert and they apply for 10 jobs and none of them fall through. Well, I keep telling people, right? Hey, I applied for hundreds and had several interviews and just learned from every bump in the road, and it is not a waste of time. But at the same time, too much relying on certs and degrees can be a
Hindering.
downfall. It can hinder you, right? So, hey, you go into your interview, you finally think you're prepared, you just got your security plus, you just finished your bachelor's degree, and hey, I'm ready. I got this interview, and it's a mid-level, it's a mid-level type of role, and you get some questions on certain business practices that they have. Example, I know from an interview that I had was a company using they using Mac OS, they're using Mac devices primarily, right? So they asked me these questions because when I started there, that was like the first project I had to work on. They say, ask me, what would I do to prevent remote workers from getting their computers lost, and how would I secure remote working environment because most of the people who worked at the company were remote? What would I use to get those machines secure? And how would I secure and track assets when they are returned to the company, right? So, person with just security plus may go in and say, and um, you know, I've asked some people who got security plus these same questions I get in these interviews. They say, man, I don't know. I don't know. It's Apple. I never even touched Apple. But the thing is, it's not Apple that they're focusing on. They're focused on their devices. Doesn't matter, right? Just a simple mobile device management solution will manage those devices. So something simple as that, and that's the first project I had to do. Secure these company devices because they didn't have one of those in place. But this is learned just from actually doing this type of stuff, right? You learn these things in theory because mobile device management is covered in Security Plus and things before then, like A plus or whatever. But you learn what it is for the test, and then you take the test, and then all the knowledge goes out the window. You took the test 4, 5 months ago, 6 months, however long ago you took it, and haven't been constantly into it, and you let the knowledge just go out. You're supposed to build on it instead of letting it leave, right? So that's where the hindrance of depending on your certs and degrees to get you a job, because they give you the theoretical knowledge. Now it's up to you to apply it in real life solutions, which was interview interviewers are basically doing, seeing if you can apply the knowledge that you say you got into their business. If you can't do it, then what are you here for, right? So, well, another question I got is, so for your job, your technology specialist job, right?
Hmm.
What kind of skills would you encourage people to get? Say they look at this and they say, I want that type of job. I want to do what you do. Right.
Hmm.
So what type of skills would you encourage people to get to actually be able to perform your type of job?
I think the first step is to actually explore the phone or the laptop that you have at home. Look up YouTube videos and figure out what the operation system is about. What are updates? Figure out how is it possible for a machine to even install software? Where can I go to look for these different softwares? How can I better encrypt my device to prevent anybody from hacking into the system? What does that first start with? Look, what's the definition between the Wi-Fi? What's the difference between a network and a server? I think vocabulary is very important. But my first advice would be just explore the machines that you have in your hand. That's what people typically look for. Because believe it or not,
Yeah.
you have a few people in our world that don't know how to operate a machine. And everything that is typically asked by these companies that one would get an interview for is pretty simple. But I think what it is just the nerve. Like with the question that you were asked, me personally, if I was asked that, I would ask them, well, what would be the company's procedures? I don't want to just up and do something that I'm into an environment and I don't know what materials you all have or what you all have scheduled. What team do you have in place for this? If you all don't have a team, then what business or area inside of the company can we pull, or do we have to go and hire in order to secure these remote devices just to make sure nobody tampers with them? I mean, you can leave a sign up, yeah, but if something goes wrong with those machines, if something goes down, who's going to be alerted before it's too late? And then there's no work done. And now you're losing money because you're behind schedule, depending on the mission and that deadline, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I meant don't be afraid when you're in these interviews. I mean, I would say look at it like I mean we're in an interview right now. I'm not gonna say I know everything just because I work in the profession that I'm working. I would say work smarter, not harder. Answer smartly, and if you don't know, you don't know. But I wouldn't. I mean, in that situation, me asking them these questions will assist me in what to say because I wouldn't know. You're asking me something that, and I'm not, and I don't even work here. Like, what are you guys' procedures? What do you all have? I don't want to just add something, and be invasive into an environment that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah. So I'm working with someone, helping her get into this technology field. And that was one thing she told me in her interview that she recently had about having a question that she didn't know the answer to, but it was at the same time knowing her background and knowledge. I knew that she knew the answer, but they asked the question so blandly that she got stuck.
Yeah.
So the only thing the guy asked was, "Tell me about your networking experience." And like in that sense, I told her that networking is such broad field. You should tell him, well, what do you want to know? Networking is big. Let's, follow up with a clarifying question, what you want to know about my networking experience, because a lot of us already do have some networking experience. I mean, when
They don't
you
even know.
don't even know what you set up at home, it's your home network with your Wi-Fi and home router and your ISP, and how you set those devices up as networking experience. If you want to talk about projects, your networking experience with setting up servers or spinning up web server in the cloud or something, right? She
Hmm.
got that. She got the knowledge, but she just got froze and stuck on I don't know answer. I don't have any networking experience. Well, no, that don't be so quick to take yourself out the running, right? Just follow up with some questions, make them clarify exactly what they're looking for, right? So I think that's a good point that you touched up on of following up on what they actually have or what they're looking to add
Hmm.
type of type of deal. Then you can go into what you know how to do, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, I would say, yeah, dissect, challenge them, ask them questions. If you
Yep.
don't have any knowledge, you don't know, you know, find a way to get that. And you can do that by asking the interviewer a question that will catch their tongue, and
Yeah.
they, and then they'll just be like, okay, next question, because
Yeah.
then they don't have an answer. They can't even answer you. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would say don't be
Indeed.
afraid to challenge. Don't be afraid to take a challenge, and don't be afraid to give it. I'm very quick to be like in my head, oh shucks, I don't know. But then I get to ask a demo question so that I can narrow down what response I would give them. Because you don't ever want to say I don't know in an interview. And if you just genuinely don't have a clue, you can be like, could we come back to that question? And maybe the next question they ask, then that will follow up. And then you'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, let's take it back to the question that you originally asked me. You asked me what I would do in this situation, and this is my response.
Yeah. Get
It's
them.
okay to sometimes take that break.
Yeah. Interview. I tell people it's a two-way street. They just not interviewing them. You're also interviewing the company as well to see if it's a actual fit for you, right? So I
Hmm.
know when trying to get into the field, people are really trying to just take what they can get, but at the same time, just want to take anything. Taking
Yes,
anything
standards.
will be more detrimental than beneficial, especially when it comes to mental health aspects and work-life balance, all those good terms that we like to have in our day-to-day lives, right?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess now, I guess you're going to tell us. I just wanted to see where's next for you and your goals as far as the next type of position that you're achieving to get, and what are your steps to get there?
My next goal, mm, I suppose it would be to learn everything that I could possibly understand in the field that I'm in. My goal would be to become efficient enough to where I won't have to rely on someone else training me. My goal is to venture off without having to look over my shoulder, and also to remember that it's okay for me to make mistakes, because if I miss something, I can always relearn it, and I also learn something from missing it.
Yeah. So I like the point of being able to learn to the point of not relying on training
Hmm.
because, in the standpoint of people say that all the entry level jobs now requiring 5 years experience and things of that nature. And
Mm.
I'll be on Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. I'm on all the sites looking at what people are coming about this issue of entry level needs experience.
Hmm.
All in all, from what I've taken away from that is that a lot of companies' training programs just sucks. Like they don't have one in place. The one, the one that I just talked about with the how would I secure the devices didn't have any type of documentation in place. I'm the one that created all that. I'm the one that started the whole IT department in a sense of the security aspect of it, right? So
Hmm.
they ask for these years of experience for these entry level jobs for one fact of trying to mitigate what they paying, and also because they know their training program sucks. I mean, there was one guy I seen on Reddit. You know, Reddit is one of those anonymous platforms. He was in hiring manager, I guess, for his IT department.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how do you expect or can expect someone in an entry level role to have 5 years experience? What is the purpose behind it? He said, well, I don't have time to train, so I need someone to hit the ground running. I really hate that. I really hate that they hit the ground running thing, right? Because every business has its needs and different processes and how they handle business, right? So just because you did something at one company a certain way doesn't mean that work at this next company a certain way.
Right.
So in the IT fields especially, they need to have standard processes that are in place so that your onboarded people can learn how you do business. I don't
Hmm.
like the fact of expecting people to come in to hit the ground running and know how to do everything already. That's just unrealistic expectations, and also reason why turnover rates are so high in certain companies because that's just not the way business is handled. But at the same time, I can understand that we don't, or business don't have the time to explain to you what an IP address is. if you say you're in the cyber world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people confuse that no experience means absolutely no knowledge also. I
Mm-hmm.
say no experience is just no work experience, entry level, no, I haven't worked at a company doing this exact type of thing already, right? But if I know what these basic fundamentals are, I think that person should be able to get an entry level role and learn the ropes of the business instead of saying, I want somebody who's done this already in corporate environments and still trying to pay them entry salaries. And that's my biggest issue is why I have this platform going on with this podcast because I hate when businesses expect those type of things out of people. So eventually these type of things will get out and people will stop accepting these type of practices from these companies. They need to have a set and strong training platform for their new hires and stop expecting them to hit the ground running with no training and so on and so forth, right? But that's neither here nor there. We're going to keep continue to expose that. So it was nice having you on the Clay Talk Show, and I'm pretty sure people will take this advice and run with it. I hope and apply it to their daily situation so they can get out of their situation to better their current situation and their goals. So, what else? What else do you have?
Well, I just want to, before we actually end the interview, say, and just set a reminder for everyone that you are your first responder. You're responsible for yourself, and you're responsible for the environment that you're in. Don't be so reliant. And it could be hard saying that now, with the how our economy works and how our society proceeds in this life. But I personally, how I walk is I don't intend to rely on those that is outside of my force or outside of my control. Instead, I will use that which I cannot control in order to push me further into tomorrow, being better than what I am today. So if you are looking at an opportunity and the opportunity presents itself, but that door doesn't open for you, keep knocking. And if it just doesn't work, look at the other door.
Yeah,
Check that out.
yeah,
Sometimes the very things that you don't look at is right there behind you with this door open wide. Take
yeah,
it.
exactly. Can't give up. Got to keep pursuing the goals and keep pushing forward. Just because somebody declines you one day, don't mean the next day that you won't get the offer of a lifetime to change your situation, right? So, yeah, I like that. But all right, next time on the Clay Talk Show, we will have another guest and we're going to give out some more meaningful tips to get into the tech industry. And sayonara.
Ciao.